Welcome to the next video in creating a blog series. In this video we're going to be checking out some of the simple authorization. Now let's go ahead and let's check what we have done in our blog again. So if we go to our blog, we can see we have some posts, and we also have a read more where we can just kind of go through each of the posts. So let's start off by adding some authorization, and hopefully you've been following along, as if we switch over to Sublime we can check out our auth routes. So our routes are in apps, HTTP, and inside route you can see that we have an authroutes.php inside our routes folder. So in here we have login and we also have logout. So let's see what happens when we visit one of these routes in our browser. So we're going to go to auth login here. So we'll switch over to our Chrome and say auth login. And you can see that we have a view not found. So let's switch back to Sublime, and inside our views, which is in resources and views, we'll need to make a new folder, and we're just going to call this auth because we don't have one yet. And the next thing we're going to do inside this folder, we'll create a new file, and we are just going to call this login.blade.php. So I'm going to speed this up in creating some HTML. And to test this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the extends in this section and just add login and try it out in Chrome just to make sure that our page is set up correctly. And now that it is, we can switch back and we can start adding our HTML. And nothing too fancy here, we're just doing some basic bootstrap, just some login headers. We're just going to create a center div here. We're just going to have one for a email address. And the next one we're going to need is a password. So we'll just add that in. And then we'll save it and check it out here. So let's do a refresh. And we have a pretty basic login form here. So the next thing we want to do is add the form action here. So we want to make sure that we're going to post our data to this named route. So we'll just add in this method here. And the next thing that I like to do is just turn off autocomplete. However, most browsers will just save that information for you. So the next thing we want to make sure that we have is a submit button. So let's make a group and we'll make a simple button and just change that to submit, and the value is login. So if we enter some information here, we actually have an error. So let's switch back to Sublime. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. And switch into Sublime, and yes, I've mixed up the action and the method, so let's fix that. And let's head back here and let's give it a try, and you can see we have a mismatch, basically a token mismatch, and that is because we are not telling Laravel to pass our token in. So we need to make sure that in each form that we have, we're going to pass in a CSRF field, which is basically a cross-site scripting token. So let's save that, refresh, and if we view the source, and here at the bottom you can see that now we have a token. So let's try this one more time, and we run into an error again. And just looking at the top of that URL doesn't look right. So let's see here. Let's check. So I have the name correct, and let's go back here, and they're in action. I'm not closing my blade template or my blade file. So if we do this again, you can see we have no errors, but we're also not displaying anything. And what we can do is we can use a partial to display those errors. Just because we may have errors on multiple pages, we don't want to call it each time. So if we use a partial, we can pull it in whenever we need to. So to do that, in layouts we'll just create a new file, and we will just call this one messages. So we'll say messages.blade.php, and we can just pull in some default Laravel code. So you can find this on the Laravel site in authorization, but just typing it out here, we want to say if we have errors, and we want to make sure that those errors, the count is bigger than 0. Then we're just going to display a basic bootstrap alert. We'll just say oh no, and let's do an ordered list, and then we'll say for each of the errors, we want to make sure we get them all as an error. We will just spit it out as a list item, so we'll just spit out the error. And now that our partial's saved, we can head back to our template here, and at the top we can just say @include, and because we're in our view, so we want to make sure that we have layouts dot partials and just the name of our template, which is messages. So if we save that and we come back, put in some random information, you can see that now we have this error message, which is great. So the next step that we want to do is we want to actually create a user. And to do this, we'll be using PHP Edison Tinker. So run our console here, we'll just load up Tinker, PHP Edison Tinker. And what we want to do is we want to access this user model here. Now this comes by default with Laravel, so everything that you see here is by default. We have not changed anything. So we need to create name, email, and a password. So let's go ahead and let's use the create method on that model. So let's use app users. We'll say create. We need a name. Let's just say Lara Academy, and let's give it an email. Say administrator@laraacademy.co. And the next thing that we're going to need is we're going to need a password. Now this password needs to be hashed, and Laravel comes with a hash make function. And let's just make our password for now. So let's end that function, end our array, finally end the function, and let's go ahead and just run this. You can see that now it's created a user. So we have a name, an email, we also have the ID. What we can do here is we can just try and get this user back just to make sure that everything looks right. So we'll just get the first user, and you can see everything's here. The one thing you may notice is the password is not, and that's just because down here we have hidden it. So the next thing we want to do is try out this user. So if we come back, we'll just say administrator@laraacademy.co, and we'll put in our password. And actually, let's just change this. I want to make sure that these messages still work, and they do. So let's just change this, and let's actually log in now. And once you log in, you'll see we have a route not found. Let's just make sure everything works. We will fix this in a little bit. So let's just go to our actual home page, which is just /, and everything still looks good. So let's go to auth/logout. And can't really see anything here, but if you remember in our routes, we have a logout already. So auth/logout, they'll run the auth controller for us. And let's tackle that route not found. So let's go into our auth controller, and if you're reading the documentation, you can see that you can overwrite a protected variable, and the variable that we are going to overwrite is redirect path, and instead of /home, we'll just do a /. So what this means is after we log in, we're just going to go to basically our website, so not /home or anything like that. So let's go ahead and let's try it out again. So we'll put in our email, we'll put in our password as password, and we'll click login. You can see we're directed back to the actual home page. And the next thing, let's take a look at this navigation bar here. Let's make some changes to show the user that we've actually logged in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close all of my tabs that I have open here, and I'm going to open the navigation blade template, and let's just make some changes here. So we'll just speed up this HTML content here, and all I'm really doing is I'm creating a left-hand navigation and a right-hand navigation. And the right-hand navigation is going to show the user that they have logged in and give them the option to log out. So we need to do an auth check just to make sure that the user has logged in. If they have not logged in, we want to change the navigation so that we offer a login option. So just to make sure that we use this route here. So we'll say URL route, let's paste that in. And the next thing we want to do is if they are logged in, we want to make sure that we offer an option to log out. So we'll just change this to log out. Just make sure our path is correct. And let's change the text to log out. Alright, let's give this a save. Let's refresh. Let's go ahead and log out. And let's log back in. So say administrator. We'll put in our password here. And you can see that the right-hand navigation has changed. So that is some pretty basic authorization. Thanks. See you in the next video.